Hi, I just filmed a bunch of videos and I am gonna check in about the first 3 books that I have read in the month of June. June is proving, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but June is proving to be a really fast reading month for me. The first book that I finished was a collection of poetry by Sarah Kay. I listened to this. I didn't own a physical copy. I had a copy on my Kindle that was given to me by NetGalley. I loved the collection so much that I immediately went out and bought a copy as soon as I had finished, because I just really, really wanted to own this. Let me see if I can choose 1 or 2 poems by Sarah Kay in this collection to share with you. The first one I will share is called Quiet. You used to stay up later than the whole apartment, the whole building, often what felt like the whole city, just to see if quiet would show up. And when it did, you honored it with poems, became so charmed by it, called yourself a devotee. Oh, you must have quiet. You insisted you must. The poems won't arrive without it. How could you possibly have a pet with their panting and tail wagging away your precious quiet? Nobody else understood, with their music listening and their love-making and their horn honking, but the quiet was your comrade, your ally, until it turned on you, at the wedding, where you were the only unmarried woman over 30. Oh, and every conversation was about babies or dogs, the quiet in your mouth souring by the hour. The friend who used to reach out daily stops, and the quiet that moves in takes up more space than their body ever did. And you cannot believe quiet would betray you this way. You, who courted quiet for years, now filling your ears with anything that will force it away. Silly girl. This is not the way you treat someone who loved you once, even if you are not a fan of the dread they spend all their time with these days. You cannot chase who someone used to be. Must learn to love them in all their newest forms. At your mother's hospital bedside while she sleeps, on stage when the joke doesn't land, in the fertility clinic waiting room, at the vigil through the city streets, your tears in lockstep with stranger beside you. And if your old friend ever picked up the phone again, you would say, wherever you've been was where you needed to be. And whoever you are now, welcome back, beloved. And I'll read this one as well. It is titled, On the dating app, I select from the drop-down menu to indicate I too like beaches. A beach is where I go to stand next to the inconceivable. It is inconceivable that this sterile void is the closest I get to touching. I touch the button to indicate that I like men. I like men like I like my coffee, more in theory. In theory, I am a catch. A catch is what gets pulled from the ocean, gasping and flailing in the hot sun. The hot sun burns, so I reach for fantasy. Fantasy is a trapdoor. A trapdoor is a means to an end. An end is not supposed to haunt. A haunting is a rejection of ending. Who wants to help me make this haunted house into a haunted home, winky face? A home is where all your junk is. Junk is just litter that you finally take ownership of. It isn't that complicated. What if I am addicted to making it complicated? What if I am addicted to getting in my own way? My own way is littered with anxiety. Litter is what everyone agrees isn't supposed to be there, but I wouldn't recognize myself without the anxiety. I am just 3 anxieties in a trench coat. Always the old-timey detective, never the femme fatale. Though still protagonist, of course, still narrator, distressingly self-aware. Self-aware is not the same as self-conscious, which is not the same as self-centered, but you're looking at a 3-for-1, baby. Babies and dogs are the only topics of conversation at the wedding, so I am silent as a fish. I am inconceivable, hard to swallow. You can lower your lips to kiss an ocean, but the best you ever leave with is salt. I love this collection of poems from Sarah Kay, and I would highly recommend purchasing it, but I also highly recommend listening to her perform the poems. On the audiobook, some of them she's reading specifically for the audiobook, but a handful of them it's a recording that she performed for a live audience, which just feels so amazing. So highly, highly, highly recommend. This was a 5-star read for me. Absolutely, absolutely impacted by it, and love that I live in a time when Sarah Kay writes poetry and shares it with the world. I just feel so blessed to be in a world where Sarah Kay is producing poetry. After that, I finished a book called Aftertaste by Daria Lavelle. Let me start by saying that there is nothing inherently wrong with this book. And it didn't work for me, but that doesn't mean that it can't work for someone else. It's very literary, I will say that. But the storyline, I think, would have fit better with something more genre-oriented. And the basic premise of this weird little book is that there is a boy who loses his father under circumstances which makes the boy carry quite a lot of guilt for most of his life. And after losing his father, he suddenly begins to have the sensation that his mouth is filling with taste that he's never tasted before, and he can differentiate between all of the ingredients in his mouth that would create those tastes, even if they are things that he's never heard of before. The concept is that he is visited by hungry ghosts. Now, in Buddhism, there are hungry ghosts, and that is not what it means at all. The author, I think, just got real interested in that idea of that term, hungry ghost. These hungry ghosts are ghosts that they have unfinished business. They are looking to get closure to something in the form of a final message or revenge or something. They have itches to scratch, and they want him to make the meal. They want him to make the thing that he tastes in his mouth. There's a scene in the beginning as he's kind of figuring out what this power can do and what the purpose of this is, where he has to make a drink, a very specific, weird drink for a man. And that man, we find out, was about to kill himself because he missed his dead wife so much. And so his dead wife is asking or pushing this person to make the drink. He makes the drink, the man drinks the drink, the woman's ghost appears, and they're able to get their closure. She's able to tell him, you need to live your life, you need to move on, it's okay. It's okay, I'm fine. You need to live your life, you're still here. And that's her unfinished business. Not all of the unfinished business is quite like that. He also, though, the guy who tastes the ghostly taste and begins to make the meals for the ghosts so that they can communicate with their unfinished business, he also has unfinished business. And the whole thing kind of spirals into this weirdness with an ending that I think is lacking. That's all I'll say. There's one character in here who's a tarot reader. Her name is Mora, and she's pretty phenomenal, and I really enjoyed her. And I wish actually that this story was more from Mora's perspective. I wish there was more humor in this story, and I wish that this were just okay, it's a weird thing to say about a book about mainly dead people and people who deal with the dead, but I wish this book were more alive. I wish it had more personality, really. It has so much potential, and it just fell completely flat for me. Completely flat, and I did not like the ending. So that's that. It was fine. It was not terrible. I never considered DNFing it. I needed to know what would happen. All very positive things. But in the end, not a book for me. I followed that with one of the Books Love Everyone book club picks, which is Hannah Coulter by Wendell Berry. It's less than 200 pages. I think I put about 200 tabs in here. This book is amazing, and I will have to wait to tell you more about it when I put out the dedicated reading vlog, or the dedicated wrap-up for it, not a reading vlog, the dedicated wrap-up for it, but this was a huge win, and I now have a new series that I need to read. I need to read all of the books in this series, 200 pages, and not a word wasted, and it feels like it's about real people, and it makes you cry. Less than 200 pages and it makes you cry. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. Not manipulated cry. You just get so invested. You're so invested in the membership of these people's lives. And I use that word membership on purpose. If you know, you know. You're so invested in the membership of these people's lives that you are emotionally involved. And that is all I will say about that. I'll check in again when I've read some more things. Until then, I'll see you soon. You guys, this might be the last time I check in from this spot. This is my desk, and it's the last day of work right now before summer break, and word on the street, but completely not confirmed, is that I'm probably moving offices and moving classrooms. So there's still a small chance that I might not, but there's also a chance that I very well might. We had to pack everything up this year anyway, because they're gonna paint and redo carpets. And I think they're doing it in all the rooms. I mean, they had us pack up, so I hope that's the case. The whole place is an absolute utter wreck because they're using my classroom space and the next door classroom space as storage right now, because we host other things in the summer and the spaces are being used. And so, like, just it's storage. It feels like someone's garage in there. But yeah, I don't really have anything left to do, so I'm just hanging out, checking in, making sure all the last minute stuff is done, and waiting for the big, like, end of year meal together, and then summertime. And I have some really great plans for summer. I did recently finish 2 books that I haven't checked in with you about. I am gonna wait, I think. I was gonna talk about them now, but now I just don't kind of feel like it. I think I'll wait. I think I'll check in again. This is really just to say maybe goodbye to this space. Good times here. Very good times here. Oh my goodness, you guys, I have so many books to check in with you about. So many books to check in with you about, which is great because it means that since I've gone on summer vacation, I have actually done what I said that I wanted to do. I said that I wanted to think of the rest of June after my last day of work. I wanted to think of the rest of June as Hibernation June and just have a bunch of coffee and a bunch of snacks and an air conditioner when I needed it, and a stack of books. And that is really what has happened. So before I went on break, I read 2 books. And after I went on break, I read 8 books. And I will have 2 more to check in with you about before I post this video. I need to finish them. But there will be 2 more that I read. It's the 28th of June right now, and there are 2 more that I will finish before I post this video. So 2 more that I'll read in June. So let's talk about the 2 that I read. I think the last thing I talked to you about was Hannah Coulter, which was the 3rd book I read this month. So in the first half of the month, I read 5 books. So life was super, super busy. In the second half of the month, I read 10 books. double what I was reading. I read The Bombshell by Darrow Farr and was very surprised by how much I loved this book. This is about, what is her name? Séverine. This is about Séverine. She's a French teenager in the 80s, I think. 84. Somewhere in here there's a year. Hang on. Oh, 90s. In the 1990s, 93. So almost 80s. So in the early 1990s, there's this French teen. She has a life that she is enjoying in Paris, but we find her having just recently, like within that year, been relocated to Corsica because her father is a politician and that's where he was sent. She doesn't know anything about the politics of Corsica at all. She's just this kind of self-centered, unhappy teen. She doesn't like where she is. She doesn't like what her parents are expecting of her. Her mother is or was an American actress, now married to this French politician. Now they're all stationed in Corsica. They are incredibly wealthy, not just for Corsica, but for the world. They are incredibly wealthy. And she wants for nothing, but she is apathetic about life. And she's been through some experiences that have left her feeling used. And yeah, she's apathetic. I think that's the best word to describe her. She gets kidnapped by a militant group whose ultimate goal is to have one of their comrades released from prison. He's been sent to a prison that for militant activities. But he's been sent to a prison which is very far removed from his family, and there's really no way for his family to be able to come and visit him. And they are requesting that he be exchanged for Séverine. Séverine's family immediately pays the astronomical amount of money that has been asked for her, but the government refuses to release the prisoner. And they thought that Séverine's father would have more sway in the government than he does, but he actually doesn't. There's a higher up who's a real jerk of a person who is not, he's not down for the exchange. And so Séverine remains in the custody of these three militants. One is about 18 and the other two are in their mid-20s. They do not mistreat her, but they treat her like a captive. Eventually, however, I don't know how much to say and how much not to say. Through a course of events and over the course of time, she ends up kind of trying to manipulate her way to freedom by flirting with the youngest guy, the 18-year-old, and he falls in love with her. But she falls in love with one of the other two, and with her captor, right? And then she becomes a militant as well. She becomes indoctrinated, and through that indoctrination, or as a result of that indoctrination, and through the ties that she has politically, they end up doing some things that get them seen. And she becomes the kind of like beautiful face of this militant group. They take Polaroid photographs of her that get leaked to the press, and the press runs with it because she's this beautiful girl who's gone to the other side. She's become indoctrinated, and she really does believe it. She's really like running a revolution in order to impress a guy who kidnapped her. I'm not saying it's healthy. The book doesn't say it's healthy either. It is not romanticized, really, not really. She romanticizes it, and it's through her lens, but she's also eventually pretty honest about the experience. I loved this, and it's so unlike anything that I would normally want to read. It is not in a setting that I would normally be attracted to. I don't really like reading things about hot climates. It's not in a setting I would normally be attracted to. It's not a historical time period. I've lived through the 90s. It's not a historical time period that I'm like, ooh, I need more of that. It's about guerrilla warfare. It's got a very political bent to it. It's just not the kind of book that I would normally read. And I loved this book. I absolutely loved it. And I was a little bit disappointed by the ending. I feel like the ending jumps ahead from the main events to the present day. And I was a little bit disappointed by what happens in that, or how things happen in that, or where things land. I don't know how to say it without giving anything away. But overall, I thought this was phenomenal. I thought this was just a great, great read. Yeah, nobody is more surprised by that than me. I then read or did my reread of my Catherine Center, The Bodyguard. I listened to this on audio this time. I have read this before, and knew that I would love it, and love it even more now. But this was my company on audio, my company in my ear as I packed up my classroom and graded the last things, and, you know, all those last days, duties of a teacher. This was the perfect accompaniment. This, if you have never read it, please read it. It's great. This is about a woman who is a bodyguard, and she is assigned to be the bodyguard for this like action actor, like a Tom Cruise type actor. And of course, they fall in love, and it's super funny and it's super wonderful. And the great thing about Catherine Center is that I'm learning as I'm doing these rereads is that there is depth to all of her characters. There may not be a lot of depth to a lot of her stories. I think her early stuff of what I've read so far this year, that I'm reading for the first time, her early stuff, there was a lot more depth to the actual storyline itself than here. She's kind of gotten into a funny humor storyline category that works for her really, really, really well. It works for me really well. But she didn't lose any of the depth. She just migrated it into her characters. And I was having a text conversation with my sister because she also enjoys these books. She enjoys Catherine Center. And I was saying that it's amazing to me how she writes these books, and she's got her formula. She definitely does. They're all a little bit the same, and yet they're all incredibly different. There's some quirk in every story that I've never seen anywhere else. And her characters, none of them feel the same. Like, I love Sophie Kinsella. Love all of her writing. Love all of her books. But every character feels like a type of the same character. Not so with Catherine Center. Her characters could so easily be types of each other. She could have just an archetype female character, but she really doesn't. Every character she creates is this weird, unique little entity unto itself. And I really appreciate that. Love Catherine Center. So that's what I read while I was still teaching. That and the 3 books that I've talked with you about already. 2 of which were incredibly short. One was poetry and one was Hannah Coulter, which I read in one evening. I do not get a lot of reading done, or I did not anyway, this past year. It was a very, very, very heavy year for work for me, incredibly heavy. I don't think I've had such a taxing work year in decades. Honestly, last year was quite a year. But it just meant that I couldn't read a whole lot this year, but that also means that I'm just right on track with my reading this year. So, once school ended, once those doors closed, I was pretty much reading a book a day, almost. So let's talk about those. I started with Riley Sager's With a Vengeance, which is basically Agatha Christie, but with a Riley Sager twist to it. This was just plain old fun. There is a woman and a man. You meet them at the beginning, and they have decided, or they have called together a group of people to take a train ride. And there is a reason why all of these individuals have been called together. The first 7 chapters, you're being introduced one at a time to each of these characters to kind of try and get their backstory. It's set up very traditionally as a closed door murder mystery. There is a murder at the beginning, or there's a dead body at the beginning. And who killed them and why. Why have all these people been called together? Who are the girl and the guy who have called them? This takes place in the 50s on a train, a moving train. And yeah, it was not hard to figure out. I figured it out well before I was supposed to have figured it out. But it was so much fun to watch it unfold, and then it gets Riley Sager-esque. Like, it starts very Agatha Christie, and then it gets very Riley Sager. So don't think that this is just a closed-door murder mystery. It's not. It's Riley Sager. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I liked this a lot more than I thought I would. I always get the Riley Sager. I don't generally read what it's about, and I end up loving every time. I end up loving it, whatever it is. Most of the time. I said every time. Most of the time. There have been a couple of duds for me. But I think because I don't have an expectation of what it's going to be, before I go into it, I just like open the book and start reading and let it unfold. I'm always pleasantly surprised by what it is. You know, he's got his stamp on things, but at the same time, they're all so different. And, you know, this one was trying to be, and then there were none. It really was. But then it became Riley Sager. I don't know how else to say that. So if you think that it's just going to be Agatha Christie, don't. If you want only Agatha Christie, you may not enjoy this. But if you want it to be something other, you might really, really like it. I think he should write more like this, honestly. It's definitely a mystery, not a thriller, but I think it's thrilling. And I think he should write more like this. I really enjoyed it. Followed that with Mimi Matthews' first book in her new series. So she finished off her Bells of London, I think, series, which I loved. The second book in that series is my favorite, and maybe one of my favorite books of all time. But she's got a new series. This one is the Crinoline Academy series. And the first book is Rules for Ruin by Mimi Matthews. The next book is coming out this year. This just came out, and the second book in the series is already coming out in December, which, awesome. But this one is about a woman who kind of has gathered these orphan girls and is training them in espionage, and this is a romance, and it's set in that time period. There's some really, really great stuff that happens in this. If you have enjoyed the Ill-Mannered Lady series by Goodwin, Allison Goodman, then you will enjoy this. This is very much in the same vein as that. It's a little bit, just a slight departure, I would say, from what you might expect from Mimi Matthews in tone, but overall, it's 100% Mimi Matthews. It's a little bit more fun, I think. Some of her work is more like seriously romance. This is a little more tongue-in-cheek at times, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the main characters. I enjoyed their romance. You know, characteristic for Mimi Matthews. There's great banter. Just really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Then came Munich's by David Peace. This is about the, I think, 1958, February 6th, 1958. Airplane crash while taking off at Munich Airport, heading back to England. Manchester United, 1958 team was involved in a plane crash, and most of the people on the plane were killed. A handful survived. Some were seriously injured for the rest of their lives. And this is about the crash. It's about the grief of the families that lost people. It's about the grief of the individuals who survived. It's about the guilt of the individuals who survived. It's really just walking you through that historical event through a lens of community, grief, and healing. And it's a very simple book. It's a very straightforward book. It is a little bit reporter-like, a little bit cold in its tone, and yet it still packs a serious punch. When I first started reading it, I thought, I don't know if I can do this, because it's talking about, it's walking you through the wreck. It's in the immediate aftermath of the wreck, and it's not describing it to you. You're in it. And I really thought, I don't know if I can do this. I read the first chapter, which is super long, and put the book down. And then I came back to it about a month later, and ended up reading it this month. I think this is a beautiful book. And again, it surprises me. It's not necessarily something that I would pick up. I have loved a lot of people. I said this in my Instagram review. So if you've heard this before, it's because I've already said it. But I have loved a lot of people who have seriously loved football, who have thought of the game as more than a game. It is more than a game. And I understand that, and I feel that, and I was drawn to this book because of my love for them. And as I was reading it through their vibe, through their lens, through how they would respond. And I think that added an extra layer to this that maybe other readers might not have. Although, if you love football, you should be reading this book. In the end, there's an author's note at the end that talks about why Peace decided to name this Munichs, because Munichs is often a derogatory term used for fans of the Manchester United fandom. And it's often a derogatory name used to this day, which is astounding to me, that you would use a term associated with a horrific plane crash as a derogatory term for a supporter of a football team. I mean, humanity is just so cruel. Cruel. But he talks directly about why he chose that, why reclaiming that term, or claiming that term as a positive, in light of this story and the grief and the growth that is displayed in the story, was important to him. So I would read more by this author. I would. It's all going to be about sport. It's all going to be about football. But I totally would read more by this author. And this may not be the kind of book that you might think you would pick up, but I do recommend it. I do recommend it, even if it's outside of your comfort zone. But I will also tell you that you kind of need to commit to it to get the payoff. You need it to all come together, and you need to settle into it. It's a horrific book, but it's a very quiet book. I read a lot of very impactful but quiet books this month. I'm really glad. I'm really glad that I read this. Along with that book, because it was buy one, get one half off at Waterstones, I picked up The Tower. And this is by Flora Carr. This is a book that had been on my radar, but I liked this cover. I liked the British cover. I needed another one because I knew I wanted to get Munichs. I needed another one, and I was in a rush because we had to get on the bus. And so I grabbed this because I liked the cover. I was already familiar with the book, and I knew that it was something that I was thinking of considering reading. Had I had more time, I may have picked something different. I don't know. But that's how I ended up with this one. And I do really like this cover in comparison to the United States cover. Did I like this book? Okay, so it is about Mary. It is about Mary, Queen of Scots, and two of her women being imprisoned in a tower in a castle in Scotland. I assume Scotland. It's Loch Leven Castle. I don't know a whole lot about Mary, Queen of Scots. I know so much about British royalty. I don't know much about Scots royalty, to be honest, outside of King James. And that is because of Shakespeare. So a lot of the character names in here are very familiar to me, and I could set them in other contexts in which they don't necessarily come across as the negative individuals that they are here. So what was super interesting to me was to see events and history, and particularly individuals, through a lens that does not glorify them because it's the enemy's lens, right? The enemies, it's the other's lens. So that was fascinating to me and disorienting. I really found myself having to do a lot of like looking things up, particularly people. And I do want to know a whole lot more about Mary, Queen of Scots outside of this fictional account. Now, more beyond, her interactions with Queen Elizabeth. And I've only ever really thought about Mary, Queen of Scots through Elizabeth's perspective. And I enjoyed that. This is a very dark book. In my Instagram review, I talk about how, sometimes you watch historical dramas or movies set in that time, and they film in half dark. It makes you think like the sun never came out. In the 1800s, the 1500s, there was no sun. There was half the sunlight that we have now, it feels like, in every scene. This book creates that feeling. Probably because it takes place in Scotland in the winter, most of it in the winter, not all of it, but it definitely starts in the winter. And there's probably not a lot of sunlight, but that feeling stays with you the whole time. It is also just a dark and oppressive book. I mean, these women are imprisoned. And did I like this book? I respect it, but I didn't like it. And I also think, do I respect it? I think that there's nothing in here that I'm not seeing in 100 other historical fictions of late. It's taking history and highlighting a possible same-sex romance, which I think, it was a reality. It always has been a reality, and it's been a reality that's not been talked about in a lot of history for a very long time. But I also think that we are currently in a moment where our literature and our entertainment is saturated with history we're familiar with that puts the film of that over it. And representation is incredibly important. It absolutely is. But at the same time, like, I feel like I've read this exact storyline 100 times in the last 2 years, just in different settings with different people. So I didn't feel like it contributed anything to that intentional inclusion of representation. I didn't feel like it contributed anything new or even subtly enhancing. And it is a major part of the story. It is actually, I think, one of the main purposes of the story. This is dealing with Mary, Queen of Scots, but it's really dealing with like women and their autonomy. There's a lot in here. Again, something else I just keep seeing over and over and over because, down with the patriarchy, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not diminishing that. I'm very much a feminist. I very much am. I very much believe that women's voices belong everywhere. I very much believe that If you believe you are a woman, you are a woman. So as I say this, please know that I'm not trying to diminish any of that sentiment in any way, shape, or form. But I also feel like the other thing that this book does is capitalize on the current like anti-male sentiment that is happening around the globe. And I do not think that in order to be feminist, you have to be anti-male. This book is anti-male. It really is. And yeah, I don't know. It didn't do it for me. It just didn't do it for me. So I read it. I was intrigued. I'd never thought of DNFing. If you need to know this, the cat does not survive. Not okay about that. But yeah, I don't, I feel meh about it. Another book in which the cat does not survive. Julie Clark's The Ghostwriter, a novel. This was great. This was great. The cat does not survive. That's not great, but this was great. Maybe this could have been easy to figure out, but I did not figure it out. I was just so engrossed in the story as it unfolded. I was entertained. I was highly entertained. What is that line from The Gladiator? Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? As he walks around, waiting to fight to the death. And they are entertained. And that is the same feeling here. Like, this is a book full of terrible people doing terrible things to each other. And I was entertained. This is my Coliseum. This is a thriller. It is set in California in the 1970s. I was born in California in the 1970s, and I grew up in the world. I remember the world that this is talking about. Not these events. These are fictional events, but the feeling. This takes place in Ojai. I never lived in Ojai, but this takes place in Ojai, and like the vibe of the people and the vibe of the time, it felt very familiar. There was something like settling in about this for me. I found the framework of the present day daughter trying to write the memoir for her author, possible murderer father, who is losing his mind to a disease that causes mental deterioration, compelling. I thought it was an interesting way to try and tell this story. There are some things that were frustrating for me. For example, the mother is alive, they're separated, but the daughter has a relationship with the mother, and she could ask the mother at any time. The whole time I'm reading this book, I'm going, why don't you talk to your mother? Talk to your mother. Why don't you talk to your mother? And then finally she talks to her mother and so many things are found out. Like, I feel like that would be the first place she would go, but she doesn't. It's an interesting story. Again, I was entertained. I think it has rereadability, which for me is the mark of a really good thriller. So I recommend that one. I enjoyed that one. I did not enjoy this one. This is The Amalfi Curse, a novel by Sarah Penner, and I think this is my last Sarah Penner. So the apothecary one, the one where the women are poisoning the men, I really enjoyed that one. Says the girl who's just like, you don't have to be a man-hater. It doesn't mean I hate men. I just really liked that particular story. I hated her second novel, the one about the spiritualists. I just really didn't like it. And I went ahead and gave this one another try because, if you love one and you hate the other, you don't know where you fit with that author. And her synopsis, like the storylines always are compelling to me, always. I always want to give her a chance. And this is no different. This is about the Amalfi Coast and how witches protect it in the 1800s from, I think it's the 1800s, from pirates and shipwrecks and things like that, or cause shipwrecks, if that's how the protection works. So there's this, witch hunt element to it. There's also this modern day, because there's always dual timelines. So there's this modern day, like aquatic scientist aspect. I enjoyed the modern day storyline more than the historical storyline, which is very, very rare for me. Both storylines, though, were incredibly dark for a story that I felt like the tone was really off in this whole book from beginning to end. I felt like the tone was super serious, super stark, super dark, and it shouldn't have been. I felt like it shouldn't have been. I felt like I was reading the wrong book the whole time. I needed to know what would happen. I never considered a DNF, but I didn't enjoy my time with this book. And I think this may be my last Sarah Penner. I don't know. It's hard for me to say that because I loved the first book. And again, her, like, reading a synopsis of her books, I totally want to read that book. But the synopsis for this book is not necessarily the book that you read. Then I read The Knight and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. And on here, Rebecca Ross says, prepare to meet your next obsession. And yes, that is true. This is a beautiful book. It is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful book. And so I knew that I was going to keep it on my shelf whether I loved it or not, because it's just so pretty. And happy to say that I also love this book, and I can't wait to get more time in this world. It is very dark. It's an incredibly dark book. There's this like group of acolytes. They're pulled together by this, what do they call her? I don't know. There's this leader. It's a creepy name. I can't remember what they call her. Not Mother Superior, but something like that. I don't remember what they call her, but she pulls them together and takes away their names, just gives them numbers. So Sybil is our acolyte here, and she's a diviner. But her name at the beginning, you don't learn her name as Sybil until about halfway through the book. Her name is Six. She's number 6, the 6th one. These diviners keep disappearing. They go to divine, and the process that is described of divination is like drowning. And they drown, and then they come to in another place, and they get to find out their information. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating description. But these women keep disappearing, or girls keep disappearing. So there's this mystery of trying to figure this out. These diviners, they live in a world where there are also knights. And the knights are generally not to be trusted. They take advantage of the women. They're supposed to have this code of chivalry, but it doesn't apply to the girls that are diviners. Like, they're not women, or they're not the kind of women that chivalry pertains to. So when Six, or Sybil, meets this knight, they have a mutual distrust of each other that has to like change over the course of the story. There is some serious like Tolkien level hero's journey stuff going on in this book, and it is phenomenal. And there's like some Hobbit-esque adventure going on, but with extremely high stakes. And they're also trying to solve like what is happening to these girls. Again, this is a very dark book. It's written in such a way that there's this gargoyle who's just adorable. Like, it's written in such a way that they're like, think about Howl's Moving Castle, the cartoon, not the book. Think about Howl's Moving Castle. In Howl's Moving Castle, you have the darkness, but then you have like Calcifer and the Scarecrow and the little boy. Like, you have these elements that are also they're also possibly like, there's an element of fear because they could be harmed or you could lose them, right? But at the same time, they are comic relief, and they're kind of like a grounding humanity in a dark, dark world. So you have those elements perfectly balanced in this. And then you have this developing relationship that is like slow burn build over the whole course of the novel until you get closer to the end. This book does have some spice in it, which may surprise you because it feels like it won't. And then it does. So just be warned that that is there. You can read around it. I highly recommend this book. Please don't let that stop you from reading this book, because this is such a good book. Yeah, I really, really, really loved this. When I finished it, I wanted to start reading it immediately again. I just think this is going to be a favorite series of mine for a long time to come. And I'm really excited that it is a series, and I don't know Rachel Gillig, so I don't know how fast she's going to put out the next book. But I want it to be good. So take your time, Rachel Gillig. Take your time and give me something really, really good to match the glory of this one. I know she has another series and I think another standalone that I've never read before. And I don't know if I want to until I've finished this series, because I love this so much. And if I don't like those others, I don't want them to taint my feeling about this series. Loved this. Love this. And then my most recent finish, this took me a really long time to read, is The Lady of the Lake by Jean Menzies. Okay. I love Jean. She is one of the very first booktubers that I watched regularly. I've been watching her since like 2019. And I have really enjoyed all of her. I think she's a phenomenal storyteller, editor, and nonfiction writer. Really, really phenomenal. I love what she does with mythology and how she makes that accessible to people. I love her recommendations for books, for games, for movies. I love her recommendations. I love her videos. I loved when she was doing like booktuber reading vlogs. I loved when she was a college student. I loved when she was getting her master's and her doctorate. I loved when she moved back to Scotland. I loved, her little budding romance. Like, I feel like she's a character that I've been following for a really long time. And she's also this amazing intellect that I really respect. And so it is with great care that I say I did not enjoy this book. I felt like it was awkward, this book. It read like childish fan fiction. And I say that with great care, love, and respect. I have thought about it for several weeks, whether or not I would even talk about it, but I think it is important to talk about it. I do not recommend it. I am giving it, where I rate things, I'm giving it a solid 3 stars, and 3 stars is not a bad rating. Like I say to my students all the time, a C is average. It is not failing. And 3 stars is average, not failing. I feel like this was her writing out her own childhood fantasies for these characters. And as such, it didn't really translate to me as a person outside of her inner child. I felt like it did not know who its audience was. It didn't know where it was trying to aim. There's like a middle grade frame to the way that the story is developed. It's pretty chronological. It's got a YA tone to it, and the characters are quite young for most of it. And the characters are quite young, And so it's got this like YA feel to the conversation and everything, to the descriptions. And yet it's very adult material. I just didn't feel like it knew what it was doing. There are some exquisite scenes, some delightful banter. There's a lot of promise and potential in several parts of this book, but as a whole, it just didn't work for me. And that does not mean that I don't think that Jean is a wonderful writer. Please know that I think that Jean is a glorious writer and a really great storyteller. I just think that this particular book was maybe a passion project for her that wasn't quite ready for the wide, wide world. And I want to read the next thing she puts out. That is my check-in for now. Like I said, I have 2 more books that I'm finishing up. So there will be 1 more small check-in before I complete this vlog, this wrap-up of the month of reading in July. I really am. I'm not working like a crazy person. And next year, I got my schedule. Next year, I'm not working like a crazy person either. So good. Next year, I have just a normal work schedule, and it feels decadent. I mean, I'm not living it yet, but it really feels good. I only have 2 preps, 4 sections, an advisory role in the second half of the year, but not the first. You know, it's going to be very different. It's going to be a very different year. So hopefully momentum of reading won't stay at the summer pace, but hopefully I'll have more time for more vlogging and more reading and more booktube. So hopefully I'll have more time. We'll see. And I definitely will have more headspace, because the roles that I am being asked to fill do not emotionally tax me like these caregiver, advisor, grade level lead roles do. When I'm in a role like that, I care. Like, I really, really, really care about the families and the kids and the team. I care, and I carry a lot of that, and I don't have to do that this year. So even if I were teaching like every single period of every day, like, teaching is not the same thing. I care there too, and I will take those kids under my wing as always, but in a very different way than in the advisor grade level lead role. Very different. So really happy to be back on a need to know basis. Really happy to not be doing basically 3 full-time jobs at once. Really, really happy. And that means all of that to say that I will be better. I know that I will be better. I will be able to be better about vlogging. And in July, I really want to check in as I'm reading Emma throughout the course of the month. I really want to document my reading of Emma. So I think you'll have a very different feel for the monthly reading vlog in July. One more in line with what I have always envisioned and tried to do with these, but have often succumbed to, here's a big stack of books I need to talk to you about. So whatever, it's fine. I have 2 more books to check in with you about, so I'll see you in a minute. We're checking in about the very last book that I read. Right before I finished this one, I did finish The Dirty Life, which I'm not going to talk about because it is a Books Love Everyone book group pick, and there will be a dedicated video about it after we have our conversation about it on Saturday. So I am not going to talk about that one, but I am going to talk about this one, The Sirens by Amelia Hart. I read this beautiful Barnes & Noble edition. I really like these Barnes & Noble special editions. Not so much, I mean, this is beautiful. I don't hate that. But I love the paper. I really love the paper. It's a really, and the way that it's bound, I don't know, it just feels very different. I think I read a lot of Book of the Month books, which are adequate, but not high quality. And when you get your hands on an actual like high quality book, it feels very different, and I forget that. And so this was a very high quality book on very, very luscious paper. And it was a great like physical reading experience. It was not for me a great intellectual or emotional reading experience. I read this because my friend recommended it to me for the 12 and 12 challenge. I really, really, really did not like Wayward at all for the exact same reasons that I did not like The Sirens. Hey, Lola. Lola, no. For the exact same reasons that I did not like The Sirens. The Sirens. So this is a magical realism book that has dual timelines that are stitched together by the existence of sirens or mermaids. It takes place in Australia in 2019 and in 1800, and all of that is fine and well. Oh, hang on. Lola, no. Lola. That nose getting the better of you and getting you into all sorts of troubles. I'll just put that there for now. Mm-hmm. I had to intervene with the doggo for a second, but we're back. I don't remember what I was saying, but I'm pretty sure that it was probably that I did not like this book. What I don't like about it is there's something about her writing that seems to be glorifying the victimization of women at the hands of gross men. And all the men in her books are gross. And all the women in her books are victimized. Yes, they have some sort of like power moment, but I'm tired of stories like this. I really am. And I particularly don't like the way she lingers on the abuse and the assault. I don't like it. I think she's just trying to create a vibe or an understanding or an image. I don't know. I don't think she's a writer that is trying to normalize the victimization of women. I don't. I think she's trying to write a good book. She's a good writer. She is. Nothing out of the ordinary for published authors writing dual timelines with a little magical realism in them. She's nothing, this sounds really mean, but she's nothing special. I don't know what she's adding to the scene. Nothing for me. She is very popular, so obviously she's adding something for someone. I just have a very visceral negative response, or have had a very visceral negative response to both of her books. The tone is incredibly dark. This is very similar to what I said about Sarah Pinner's books, but it's in a different way. I'm using the same words to describe two different things. And I'm struggling a little bit because it really is like an energetic response, like a vibe, like a oof, no, to Amelia Hart's stories. And on paper, like in the synopsis, they should be things that are my kind of book, my kind of story, but there's something about the way that she writes them that literally makes me want to put the book down and walk away. Just put it down and walk away. I do not like it. I don't like it. It's the details that she chooses to focus on, I think. I think someone else could tell these same stories in a way that I wouldn't enjoy, but that wouldn't make me almost feel sick. Like I don't like her books. And this will definitely be my last. I thought Wayward would be my last, but my friend was like, no, this is great. I read the arc. You're going to love it. And I was like, I'm really not, but okay. And yeah, I went into it hopeful. I used a gift card to get the special edition because it was pretty, and we've already established that I really liked reading that special edition. I really did. It was the first Barnes & Noble special edition I've ever purchased. And I will keep this book because it is absolutely gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. I might pass it on to someone in the future if someone is like, ooh, I want to read this book. I will be happy to give it to them, but I'm not just going to put it in a free library or something. I don't currently have more to say about it. Maybe if I sit with it for a bit longer. I did just finish it yesterday. Maybe if I sit with it for a bit longer, I will better be able to articulate why I really, really don't like this book or this author's writing, the way that she tells these stories, or the way that she focuses on gross men hurting vulnerable women every single time in every single storyline in both of her books. Gross men hurting vulnerable women. There's a lot of stories like that. I've read a lot of stories like that. I don't always have this response to them, but to her, both of her books, I do. Yeah. So June, we learned that I will not read any more Amelia Hart, and I will not read any more Sarah Pinner. It's just not fair to those authors that someone who knows that she doesn't like their work read and reflect on their work. Like, it's okay. I don't have to like them. I don't have to like them, and I don't have to read them, and I won't anymore. This is the end of this vlog. I started Emma this morning, and I am going to attempt. I've got lots of things going on in July, which are really fun. I'm deep cleaning my apartment, which is maybe not fun, but will be really, really good for, like, future me is applauding present day me. On that score. So I'm deep cleaning my apartment. I am doing a watercolor challenge with a bunch of friends, where we're doing a little watercolor tutorial, 10-minute tutorial every single day in the month of July. So I'm going to try and take you on that journey in July, and I am going to take you on my Jane Austen July reading journey, especially with my revisit of Emma. I am actually on chapter 5. I was listening to it this morning while I was working in the kitchen, and I am pleasantly surprised by how much I am enjoying it, actually. I'm really enjoying it. I've never listened to it before. This is the first time I'm listening, and that may be the way to go for me. I don't know. I am really enjoying it. Also, Jane Austen is just the best. Even the book that I don't like by her, I like. She's just the best. best. So I am gonna go ahead and continue on with what I'm vlogging for July, and because it is July, and at some point today I'm gonna get this edited and out, this whole video edited and out at some point today. So I said there's lots of fun things going on in July. There's more, but I'm not telling you what those things are. Some of them you will never know. It's amazing, isn't it, that people have like lives outside of this little camera? But we do. And so some of it you'll never know, but some of it I'm going to take you on, and it's going to be super fun. And yeah, July is going to be a great month. I'm really determined to have a joyful summer break. Summer is not my favorite time of the year, but I love being on vacation for summer, and starting to feel like a human again. I really feel human right now. Today is July 1st. I knew it would be July 1st that I felt human. Maybe a self-fulfilling prophecy. Those days, that like about a week and a half of the end of June, I was not human. I was not a teacher. I was just a little puddle of vibrating exhaustion. That feeling of like, I have been going on nothing for so long and I cannot stop. Like, if I stop, everything will fall apart. Like that feeling, that drive, but also knowing like actually I can stop, and trying to force myself to stop. I literally just locked myself in my apartment for those days and just met my needs when they arose, which is something teachers never get to do. And so, you know, if I needed to sleep, I slept. If I needed to eat, I ate. If I needed to, if I met Lola's needs. But if I needed to just be outside, I was outside. If I needed to sit in silence and stare at the wall, I sat in silence and stared at the wall. I just, if I needed to escape, I tried to do something creative or played Sims. I played tons and tons of Sims. I talked to a couple of people on the phone. I met one friend for lunch because she's leaving the country for the whole summer, and I actually rescheduled my eyeglass appointment for next week, for a week from today. So I did absolutely nothing but reset my body's expectations. Like, I just let myself be a physical being that had needs and met those needs. And it was glorious. Please never take away teachers' summers, because they're actually vital. They're actually vital. And I feel like a human now, and I'm ready to deep clean and create and go be with people and have adventures, and I was not there. I was not a hopeful kitten there for a while. I was literally just like a little vibrating puddle of goo. So, thanks to books and sleep and food and being able to go to the bathroom whenever you want, and great TV and old movies that I didn't have to pay attention to, but that I could just watch. Like, I watched several favorites, due to all of that stuff, and the grace of people not expecting me to be social. I have recuperated, and it took a solid 12 days to get to the point where I feel fine. That's not okay. That is not okay. I think I've already said on here that I received my schedule and that it's just a normal schedule and it's just teaching. And so next year, thank goodness, it should be a whole lot better for maintaining my human status over the course of the whole year. It's a little chaotic. It's a little chaotic. I won't go into that, but the year might hold some surprises at work, but I'm ready, or I will be. All of that to say, July, full of adventure, full of joy, joyful July. That's what I'm focusing on. Anyway, I need to make some lunch, and I want to continue reading Emma, and I'll talk to you later. Until then, let's go read.